The Indian space industry has been witnessing remarkable growth, especially with more startups entering the market with their innovative technologies and knowledge. Currently, there are more than 200 startups that operate in the space sector, having received the full funding of around $124 million in 2023. With the new space policy as well as the FDI policy in place, where is the Indian space sector heading? To provide us with an answer to this and much more, here with us we have Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt, who is the Director General of Indian Space Association, who was DGMO during the Doklam standoff with China in 2017. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm
ISPA
really
is
very
an
happy.
apex. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm very happy to be here with you for the interview today.
Pleasure is all ours. ISPA is an apex non-profit industry body set up exclusively for the successful collaborative development of the private space industry in India. ISPA was created to be the single voice of the private space industry and act as a bridge between the government and the space industry. So, my first question will be, you have worked closely with the Army and now you're heading the Indian Space Association. How did the transition from one sector to another feel? How has the previous experiences helped in managing the current job at hand?
Oh, well, in a way, it was totally a different world from my previous job, and that is of being a corps commander in 15 Corps or the DGMO or the military secretary, that is being in the Indian Army. Coming here to space, yes, as in armed forces, we are major users of space. But to come to this very new domain, it was great learning. But the basics of what like the job I do, it's basically providing leadership, providing direction, dealing with human beings, and fortunately in space, you deal with some of the best in India, be it ISRO, be it the young entrepreneurs. They are so full of knowledge, energy, and national feeling that way it was something like doing the same job with a new set of people.
So, like the new space policy has been launched, and then the FDI policy was also launched. So, what are your views on them? How is it going to, spearhead the new Indian space sector?
Firstly, I should tell you that in working in the government sector of space, what was very good was that from the day go, we were part of the space policy when it was written. The draft was shared with us. All inputs provided by the industry were taken on very in a very positive manner. Similar was the case with the FDI policy. Now, what do these two policies do? Firstly, the space policy. It's a quantum leap, and like the Prime Minister at times says, it has unshackled space for the private sector. It has much more than what the industry had asked for. Today, non-government entities, that is basically private sector, be it startups, be it old companies, can do all activities in space, be it in the domain of the uplink, upstream, downstream, all activities, from launching of rockets, from making of satellites, to even mining asteroids is permitted by the space policy which has been taken out by the government. It is there for now the space industry to respond and to do what the nation wants it to do. And the FDI policy was much needed because space is a capital intensive domain. And more so because return on investments take a lot of time. With a liberal FDI policy which has now been announced, with space sector investments, FDI being from 100% to 59% in different categories, this will spur growth because it will attract foreign capital along with technology. Because space, when we look at it, it is just not for the domestic market. If our industries have to grow and develop, they would also be looking at a global market. So, this FDI combined with the space policy is a great opportunity for India, where our space economy a few years back was just 2.5% of the overall global space economy, that it jettisons and goes up to 8 to 10% in 10 years to about 44 billion.
So now we have startups like Pixel, Dhruva Space, Agnikul, and Skyroot who have got massive investments to do their jobs in India. Do you think soon India will have its own SpaceX kind of startup?
Oh, yes, as far as caliber goes, we have many SpaceXs. What we maybe we do not have is that many of these young entrepreneurs, these young startups, may not have the kind of deep pockets and money which SpaceX has. And that is why financial incentives for them are very, very important for them to be able to deliver things like what SpaceX has been doing. But as far as the caliber and capability goes, I have no doubt our Indian startups have it.
So last year when we met Indian Space Conclave, where ISPA and GIFAS they signed an MOU. How are both the countries utilizing each other's strength, and on what projects are they working on? If you can shed some light on that.
Oh, yes. Firstly, traditionally itself, with France, India, the CNES, that is the French Space Agency, and ISRO has had very strong relations. What has happened after what we have had in a space symposium is now this is being built up between the two industries. We had big companies like Safran, Thales, all of them coming here to India. There were, in fact, 26 companies which came to understand the Indian ecosystem and the opportunities there. And this year, in October, in the second week of October, there would be about 70 defense and space companies coming to India. And we'll be helping them to get in touch with our industry, to have tie ups, have combined uh, collaborations in the domain of space and defense, which of course is being looked after by another association. I would not be able to give you specific what types have been done, but like for example, Skyroot has had future tie-ups with one to two companies which have had they've had some kind of MOU for once Skyroot is orbital. That is they have their next test, which is very soon due. They will be having somebody giving orders to them from France. Similarly, many other companies have got to know the French ecosystem, which is very well developed in space, and have been able to have tie-ups.
So apart from France, are there any countries that we are tying up with for future innovations?
Oh, yes, as far as ISPA is looking at, we see the opportunity in the whole world. Of course, for space, if I would say the leading nation is USA, and our companies would be are very keen and are of course doing tie-ups. Our startups are also getting linked up to activities in America. Apart from America is ESA, and in ESA the countries are the many countries they are there: France, Italy, even Germany, where relationships are being built between the two nations. Also, Holland and even Sweden. Similarly, we are also looking at South Asia and the global South, where there are many opportunities for Indian startups to be able to provide what we have, especially in the downstream domain and in the rocket launch domain.
Post the signing of the Artemis Accords, India is embarking on a lot of new collaborative initiatives. How would it contribute to the long-term growth of Indian space sector?
You know, the Artemis Accord is basically certain rules which all nations who are there agree to. It is not this Artemis program which is separate, which is US led with a few countries, but what it provides is an opportunity to go into the Artemis program. And there are about 39 countries which have signed it, and they are all looking at going to the moon, and in future going beyond. So there would be collaborations and cooperations which from governments would also lead to cooperations between private players. So it provides huge opportunities in an accord which has been signed by the nations, and we are looking forward to that.
The space is slowly becoming the next battleground. I mean, there are a lot of countries participating. How can we bring harmony in space, especially? How can we utilize it more for greater good than for the damage that it is causing?
Yeah, historically, space has been one domain where there has been a lot of cooperation. In fact, a few years back, the International Space Station, the astronauts to that, after America had closed its program for launching astronauts there, for some time was being done from a Russian spacecraft. So there has been a lot of cooperation. Of course, it is not there. Till 2030, of course, all nations are cooperating in the International Space Station. But in future, we are looking at maybe private sector cooperating together from different countries to establish international space station. That apart, even in debris management, there is
Right.
a kind of consensus and a cooperation between nations. Space is, in fact, one example where there is much more cooperation than competition. Of course, as it becomes a domain of more and more usage, security aspect is also becoming very important. But we hope that the weaponization of space does not take place. There are two aspects. Militarization is use of space for, say, ISR communication for PNT by nations. That is, of course, happening. But weapons in space so far, they are none. And we hope it carries on that way.
Like you closely work with a lot of new comers in the space sector. What do you think? What are the challenges that they face now?
When ISPA was made, and initially I would meet members of startups and companies, there was a long list of 7 to 8 uh, challenges they had. Firstly, there was a lack of any regulations. There was no way to use facilities of what ISRO provided. There was no market clarity. They did not know what the defense wanted. Uh, and finances was also a challenge. But now what is left is there's a one thing that happened is there is regulatory clarity. Regulations have been laid down by the government. Facilities of ISRO are being used. In fact, ISRO is assisting startups, especially the way it has done for Skyroot was exemplary, and a similar kind of help is being provided to Agnico. So facilities also of ISRO are now being made available. What the issue is, and which will take a little time, is government to take out financial incentives and policies. We are waiting for that. There are many which are required, from tax holidays to PLI incentives to low GSTs to exemptions, import duty exemptions. And we are very sure the way the government has been hand holding space industry in India that this will happen.
Like you mentioned, there are some financial limitations to that the private sector is facing. Do you think the Indian, I mean, the industries are why are they holding back themselves from spending in or investing in space sector?
What happens is most of the industry or commercial organizations look at return on investments in short term. Nobody is interested in returns in investments which take a longer time. Number one, that is the reason. And the second reason is space itself, by whatever it is rocket science, it is a risky domain. So there is some kind of hesitation which is there to invest a lot of money into it. But slowly this is going away as our startups are being able to prove the capabilities, be it in launching rockets, be it in manufacturing satellites, and And world over in India also, slowly funds are coming in.
Lastly, I would like you to share something from your experience, like you were part of the Doklam warfare in 2017. Please share some experiences.
So I'm a very fortunate Indian Army officer who firstly could rise to a rank of a three-star and then had great experiences, be it in Srinagar, be it during Doklam, where I could handle very challenging situations for the nation and could do it. What I would only tell you about Doklam is the kind of extraordinary leadership we had from the highest, from the Prime Minister to uh, our chief who was there, General Rawat, decisiveness, ability to take risks, and draw red lines very distinctly. There was such clarity, and then there was at the highest decision table where the NSA, the Foreign Secretary, the chief, uh, I at times attending it, was there, where there was a total synergy and cooperation at a time of crisis. And that has given me a lot of confidence that India as a nation will rise to any occasion and be able to handle more than difficult situations.
It was great interacting with you, and it's an honor to be sharing the stage with you. Thank you so much for your insightful conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, and my best wishes to Geospatial Media. Thank you.
Thank you so much.